There's a fine line, Tucker, between telling people we're not breaking the law and not enforcing it and being okay with that. Some ICE officials will tell you, well, you know, the Biden administration isn't telling us to break the law, but they're definitely telling you not to enforce it.
Well, that former ICE official, Thomas Feely, retiring over what he calls the administration's refusal to enforce the law. Also claiming activists from nonprofits routinely weigh in and stop deportations.
And now Tucker Carlson exclusively obtaining emails confirming this, like this one that you see on your screen from a member of the Abolish ICE movement, urging ICE to block the deportation of a convicted felon.
Wow. The request was ultimately forwarded along by ICE Director Tay Johnson, who requested a 14-day stay of removal, to which an official responded, "Will do." Tucker Carlson joins us now. Another scandal revolving the border. Tucker, this is unbelievable. A lot of these whistleblowers feel at home on your show. That's the ultimate reward, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, you know what this tells you, honestly? That what's happening at the border is not a crisis. A crisis is a flood in Bangladesh. It's an act of God. This is an intentional act. This is the administration bringing felons, violent criminals, into our country on purpose. Why would you do something like that? Only to destroy it. I mean, there's no other explanation for this. It's not an act of compassion. It's an act of hostility against the United States in order to change it forever. I think this is the greatest scandal of my lifetime, what's happening on the border right now.
Well, absolutely. Although you've heard Secretary Mayorkas, Tucker, says the strategy is working, which makes you wonder, what is the strategy?
Right. Well, the strategy is to change the demographics of the country. Now, when you say that, they have a heart attack and they call you names, but they say it out loud. I mean, they say it on the floor of the Senate. Dick Durbin did 2 weeks ago. This country is changing in a way that benefits the Democratic Party, more Democratic voters. There's no other upside in this policy. By the way, it doesn't help the people coming from around the world. There's a humanitarian disaster unfolding thanks to the Biden administration. The only beneficiaries are the people who run the Democratic Party, and this is an effort to change the country. And we should be honest about it and not be bullied into silence as they take our country away and import violent criminals. What?
What is
That's
the
never happened
benefit
before.
of that, though? I've heard Republicans say it's to turn Arizona and Texas blue, but what's the benefit of allowing felons to come in?
Well, the same reason that they push to allow felons to vote is the same reason they're doing this. They believe these are their voters. I mean, look at their behavior, not what they say. If you want to know the truth about something, put earmuffs on and just watch the person talking to you. What's he doing? And what they're doing is bringing in people they think will vote for them. And I don't know. I mean, that is an attack on democracy. It's the definition of it. When you change the electorate, you change the outcome. You disempower the people who live here. You take their votes away. That's what they're doing. Why is no one saying anything about this?
But Tucker, you know what I'm heartened by? I'm playing this out. It's going to blow up in Democrats' faces, and you saw it in the last election. More Hispanic votes went Donald Trump than ever before.
Yes.
People who live in these areas who are Hispanic want to be Americans first, and they see this is hurting their country.
That's right.
And if people think that Hispanics are going to go to Democrats, I think it's game on, because it's not.
Well, I think that's exactly why they're doing this, because they saw in the last election results that people with Spanish last names on the border are just Americans like everybody else. And they don't want their country wrecked either. Just because they have a Hispanic last name doesn't mean that they're for this craziness. They're not, and they voted against it. So the Democrats need to import new people, and it doesn't matter what racial or ethnic group they're from. They're from other countries. Democrats are bringing them here purely to vote for them, purely.
We did reach out to ICE for comment. They did not dispute any of the reporting and confirmed that Pena hasn't been deported and is still in the United States. So stay tuned to Tucker for further updates. Meanwhile, Tucker, we've got Dr. Anthony Fauci. He's on MSNBC yesterday, and he's talking a little bit about our freedoms. Listen to this.
I'm sorry. I mean, I know people must like to have their individual freedom and not be told to do something. But I think we're in such a serious situation now that under certain circumstances, mandates should be done.
Okay, so people like freedom, but sorry, not today.
So the guy who funded the creation of the virus is still on television telling us that we can't have our constitutional God-given freedoms? I mean, at some point, you get what you put up with. Why are we listening to Anthony Fauci? He's so thoroughly discredited. Look, we don't have the power to force a congressional investigation or an indictment. I wish it did. But we do have the power to ignore. And anyone who still takes this guy seriously kind of deserves what he gets, as far as I'm concerned. Just ignore the guy.
Well, but we heard from Jen Psaki about a month ago. She was asked by our White House correspondent, would the president, under any circumstances, fire Anthony Fauci? And she said, absolutely not.
Look, if the liberals said this for many years, and they were absolutely right. If a law is unjust, if it's designed to hurt people who are innocent rather than protect the innocent, then, you have to think really strongly about civil disobedience. I mean, because, if they're forcing you to violate your conscience, to hurt yourself or your children, in what sense are you obligated to obey that? I mean,
right.
They're pushing this so far, especially on the mask question. And there's a ton of evidence that masks hurt kids. There doesn't seem to be any evidence that kids benefit from masks. So if they're not going to explain why this is a good policy, it kind of puts the rest of us in a very tough spot. I want to follow the law, but am I going to hurt my kids to satisfy your political imperatives? I don't know.
Hopefully there won't be long-term negative consequences from these masks.
Yeah. Does he have small children? I don't think he does. But a lot of people do. A lot of people. And they love their children. And you kind of have to put your children first at a certain point. You want to do the right thing, but you can't hurt your kids.
Absolutely. And when a governor says, I want to put the power in with the hands of the parents, they're vilified in Texas and Florida. Yeah. That's unbelievable. So I want to talk about your new book. I know you're reluctant. It's called The Long Slide, 30 Years in American Journalism. First off, cool cover. Second off, the first thing you do is take a shot at your publisher. Why?
Well, it's published by Simon & Schuster. I was under contract to write this book when they canceled Josh Hawley's book because they didn't like a vote that he cast in the Senate right after the last presidential election. So I called John Karp, who runs the company, and I said, this looks like censorship to me. And I had a long conversation with him. To his credit, he talked to me about it, and he conceded, yes, it is. They acted on behalf of the Democratic Party. And this is just one snapshot of censorship underway in the United States, but this is a major book publisher that for a century has upheld the freedom of speech and freedom of conscience, the free exchange of ideas, and now they are crushing those things. And I thought, since I have a window into this, I should report it out. I should preserve this for history. What's happening in 2021? And to me, it was a very sad story, but also a really interesting one. And I think people will look back and, how did this happen? Here's how it happened.
Hey, Donald Trump's having trouble getting a book deal. How does that happen when he gets 75 million people, potential voters?
Yeah, because it's not about, look, we think this is a free market and, that they're going to do what's best for the bottom line. Not true. The political pressure is more, why do these huge companies attack potential consumers? We don't want your business. You're immoral. That's not a free market. Those aren't market principles. Right. Those are political principles. So I think we need to reorient here. This is not a free market. These are political actors. They get rich by being friends with the people who run the government. That's the truth. And that's why they gave Hunter Biden millions of dollars to write a book that didn't sell. Sure. It takes dumb people like me are confused for years, and then the light bulb finally goes on. You're like, oh, wait. That's what's going on. Yeah. And that is what's going on.
Tucker, tell us about your book. What's in it?
Well, it's a collection of 30 years of magazine journalism. I started in 1991. It's all I've ever done. It's been a hack. And to go back and, it's really kind of a snapshot of the country, how things have changed. And I think some of it's pretty good and funny and interesting. But as you read it, I had to reread it, and then I had to do the audiobook. And you think to yourself, wow, first of all, I'm really old. I had no idea how old I was. And for another, the country, it's just so different. So it's kind of a window into the last 30 years in America.
I've read part of it so far. It's like a time machine, because every time you come up, whether you're traveling with Al Sharpton or another event, you very efficiently and effectively take us right to that moment in time in America. And then we see the long slide to where we are today.
Well, and to polarization, the last thing I'll say is I read this and I was reminded of all the liberals and Democratic politicians I liked and spent time with and got along with and had dinner with. And I never agreed with them, but I always liked them and we could be friends. And it's just unimaginable. Like, I couldn't go to Africa with Al Sharpton now. I couldn't, have, dinner with Al Gore. I mean, what? First of all, they would never go with me. But second, it's just I hope we're not as polarized as we are right now forever, because it's not as fun.
I think that they get worse before they get better. Hopefully they're going to get better. Tucker, I know this book is going to be great. You want everyone to buy the book in person, stores like Barnes & Noble, Costco, Walmart, Target. You support doing that. However, if you typically order online, cut out big tech and buy it at tuckercarlson.com and get a copy shipped right to you. I think I know who you're avoiding.
Disempower Amazon.
Yes.
If we can, kind of hard.
All right. Tucker, congratulations on all your success.
Thanks,
it's going to be a
Great
huge
to
hit.
see you. And particularly you, Ainsley. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker. Always good to see you.
It's unbelievable.